Ladies and gentlemen, specifically Lakers Nation, welcome to the Strive for Legacy podcast. I'm your host, Roze, whatever you want to call me. I've got Dolos next to me. Say hello to Laker Nation, I guess.
What's up, Laker Nation? Dolos here, creator of the LayupLine.
Yeah, so turns out we met each other like a few months ago, and we were both content creators on YouTube. We're big visual creator guys. Also graphics. Layup is super underrated with graphics. Jeez, can't talk. But basically, we like talked, and then we realized we were both Lakers fans. Cause I don't know if was it before Andre Drummond went to the Lakers that we found out that we were both Lakers fans.
Yeah, I think it was definitely before the Big Penguin made his way to LA.
Yeah. So we found that out, and then I made a podcast with one of my friends named Asher. Selfless promo, or shameless promo, I guess. It's called Ridiculous. We basically talk to other content creators on this platform, specifically in the NBA. But yeah, me and Dolos were like, shoot, let's make a Lakers podcast. And I was like, you know, that sounds super dope. And I mean, obviously there's words in between that. We obviously planned for this, and the name we came up with obviously is Strive for Legacy. I basically just combined Strive for Greatness, which is LeBron's motto, I guess. And then I also combined Leave a Legacy, which was the Lakers' motto last season, which was basically in memoriam of Kobe. Combined those two, and as you can tell with the logo, there's a crown on the Strive and a snake tongue with the Legacy. Graphic design is my passion. That's all I'll say. But yeah, it should be fun. We're both just super passionate, and we just found, like, we were thinking, like, how can we express our grievances of this team? How can we express our frustrations, our happiness, all of that? And what better time to start than the playoffs? But before that, you know, the Nuggets decided, you're not going to be in the playoffs just yet. Yeah. You're going to be in the play-in.
And now Nikola Jokic is no longer the MVP. So take that, Nuggets fans. You guys just blew it.
You did. We expected it. We had low expectations, but you guys still let us down.
Doesn't matter. Y'all are definitely gonna be a first round out now. The basketball gods have been angered that you did not give it your all.
And so just to start off, before we get obviously into recapping the Lakers 2020 and 2021 season and the playoffs, obviously as of this recording, was it yesterday? Yes, it was yesterday. Yesterday was the 2021 Hall of Fame, or technically 2020 because it got postponed, as we all know. So Kobe obviously had his speech, but he wasn't there to give it out. It was Vanessa and Michael Jordan. Basically, I don't know what his role was. I think it was just an introduction type of thing. He just stood there next to Vanessa, and obviously, we all would have loved Kobe to be there to say what he wanted, because when he talks, it's kind of like watching him play. It's just amazing to just hear and to see. If you guys want to be enlightened on anything, just watch any of his interviews, and it's pretty amazing stuff. But Vanessa did give a really good speech, and I'm amazed that she has the ultimate bravery, the ultimate courage, because I could not have done what she did yesterday. But something that she said within the speech that I really liked is how we all know that Kobe played through injury. I mean, most iconically, he tore his Achilles and shot 2 free throws. And she said how much, she basically highlighted how much she loved, or not she loved, but how much Kobe loved the fans. He did all of it. He played through injury. He told her it was for the fans, because he said, I don't have the quote with me, but I guess I can paraphrase it. But he said that there's people saving up life's amount of money just to see me. Why would I let them down? And I thought, not to sound like an old head, that's pretty reflective of the modern NBA. It just shows who Kobe was, and it was great. And Tim Duncan, obviously, it was just looming the whole time that Kobe was not there, but KG, Tim Duncan, Tamika Catchings, legends like them, they obviously had their words about Kobe, and it was really, really cool to see. And so, yeah, I mean, like always, it's Mamba forever, man. It's Mamba forever.
Yeah, the passing of a Hall of Famer is always going to be crazy, especially with the way it happened with Kobe. It was unexpected and just it still doesn't even really feel real that he's gone. And even the past kind of NBA season was dedicated to him in that regards as well.
Yeah, and like something else that always hits different is like whenever Vanessa was talking, she mentioned Gigi, and I keep not forgetting that she was with Kobe, but I keep getting hit the same time that it wasn't just Kobe. Mm-hmm. It was also Gigi. But there's obviously the legacy with Kobe going into the Hall of Fame. Obviously, Gigi is part of basketball history forever with him. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just amazing. So, congrats to Kobe, congrats to Vanessa, and congrats to the rest of the Hall of Famers for going there. I don't know if in the 2021 class, if there's any Lakers. I'm pretty sure, obviously, Ben Wallace is cool. Paul Pierce made it. But I don't know if there's any Hall of Famers. So, we'll just be on the lookout. I'm a big Michael Cooper Hall of Fame guy. That he's super underrated in the Lake Show dynasty. So one day he will be in it. I will manifest it until it happens. But moving on to the next topic, obviously, I feel like I said obviously like 20 times now, but the Lakers have just wrapped up their season. They finished I don't even know, what was the record?
God, just a quick second and I will pull that up. We finished 41 and 30. Oh, 42 now, 30. Yeah. So we got that one, 42 and 30. Not the record we were expecting at all to come into the season, but at the end of the day, if we're healthy, we're still the best team in the league, especially in the conference.
That's been the big issue is health. I mean, we saw it in the Pelicans game. It ended up in a victory. Mm-hmm. It was kind of scary. Not scary, like, it was just like, why are we this close to a G League team, essentially?
Yeah.
And AD and LeBron literally both got injured, but not like out of the game injured, but it was like, come on, man. Like, stop scaring us,
that
please.
LeBron one, I'm not going to lie, I was low-key a little scared on that one because after he went down, he's just lying down on the floor, kind of like stretching out the ankle, and I think it was the one that sidelined him for 20-plus games. So, like...
Yeah, I think it was the right one,
right? Yeah, the right one. So, that happening, like, literally the day before, like, play-in is about to start was like, come on, man. Like, there's no way we're about to lose like this. Like, that was upsetting. But then he gets up and, like, walks it off, and you can see him laughing on the bench later. So, like, hopefully it's not anything too serious. But, it kind of sucks that it might have, like, got re-aggravated at least a little bit, before we are about to be in this play-in thing now.
It for sure did. Yeah. It for sure did. Both of their injuries. Well, AD is basically always injured. I don't recall a time that he's been, like, fully healthy. I mean, even in the playoffs last year. Yeah. In the finals, he had, was it an ankle tweak? He did have an ankle tweak. That was also scary, but somehow they both just play injured, and, I mean, if they're injured and they win, maybe that's just the recipe for success. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, because LeBron was injured during the finals run last year as well. I remember, like, the injury report was I was checking it constantly. He was listed on the injury report pretty much the entire playoff run, but like nagging stuff that he was obviously just gonna play through anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you hear it all the time. The guy is 36, so.
Year 18.
Shout out to Artie.
Still striving for greatness. Your favorite could never.
You're not wrong. Shout out to RDC. So yeah, we got some categories for the whole season. It's been quite the peculiar one, but it was fun regardless. It's not like we missed the playoffs. Although at moments I felt like we were going to, but it was fun. I will say I did go to one Laker game. I don't know if you did.
Nope.
Did you?
Nope, unfortunately did not.
I was fortunate enough to go to the... funny enough, it was James Harden's last game with the Rockets. So, I went to that. So, technically, I mean, it's kind of part of history, but it's kind of lame because it's not like anything significant. It's just one of those things like Russell Westbrook. His last game was with Damian's buzzer beater. Mm-hmm. It's cool, but like it's not that cool, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'm gonna push back on that. That was pretty cool. We not only just destroyed the Houston Rockets franchise, we had James Harden feeling so bad he had to leave. Beat them in the playoffs, and then they were kind of like talking it out during the regular season. John Wall and James Harden seemed cool. The Lakers come in and beat them. Like I think we had back-to-back games against them. Just destroy all their hopes of being a competent franchise, and James Harden realizes he has to go. So that was history, Roze. You were definitely there for a historic moment.
Yeah, I mean, earlier you said John Wall, and I don't know if you said James Harden, if they were cool. I don't recall that happening because they were like in the press conference, like basically throwing shade at each other, and then the next hour they were like practicing. But he was a big guy. Like James Harden was quite the big guy because we all know how he left.
Yeah.
Hey man, I saw it in person. He was James Harden times 2. I'll say that. And that was the game that LeBron did we'll talk about that later. But we got 3 categories: top 3 players, top 3 games, and top 3 moments. I think the hardest one is going to be the players because there's obviously 2 that, have us in contentionship. So we're going to disqualify them because we're going to try to make this spicy,
Yeah, and that's fair. That's fair to discount them and take them out of this. But I think I very easily still have my top 3 players on the team, even with those guys excluded.
All right, well, now's your time to spit it.
Okay, all right. Do you want to just go back and forth one by one, or you want me to give my entire top 3?
We'll do starting from 3, and then we'll do like back to back.
Okay. So number 3 on this list for me then is definitely Kyle Kuzma, because I think he had a very underrated season. Like going into the season, like there were some haters and whatnot saying, oh, like the contract extension that we gave him was an overpay, that he's a scrub, this, that, and the third. But he's a competent role player. Like his improvement on defense has been insane. Like I've said this before, but like going back to, I think, what was it, the 2019 season, the last year with Luke Walton, to start that year, we were literally running Kuzma as a small ball 5, and that experiment got shut down like in the first week of the season or something like that, because he was just so bad defensively, he could not hang. But the fact that we can legitimately trust him, we legitimately go to him to be a wing defensive stopper, to be a 2-way player now, and like that growth is crazy. He's making the little plays. He's improved as a passer. Like his reads are better. Like he'll still have his moments, of course, where he'll take a bad shot and go a couple possessions of taking bad shots, and he'll have cold stretches and be streaky. But the fact that we can rely on him as a defender, and the fact that he can still be a spark plug off the bench, has been a huge boost for this Lakers team. When our big top tier guys are out, like there's always the occasional 25-point game from Kuzma as well. So, I think he's a huge X factor for this team. So he's top 3 for me.
I mean, yeah, this year, I think something significant that's super underrated, obviously with his defense, is just his rebounding. Yeah. For his career, he's averaging 5.6. He went up to 6.1 this season, but obviously the numbers, I said obviously like 25 times now. His rebounding, it's not just like the number, it's how he gets the rebounds. His hustle is incredible this year, and he seemed like the fastest player on the court, not because of speed, but of how he was literally everywhere, every possession. And he controlled the game sometimes, not with score. I mean, sometimes with scoring. He'd shoot like 6 threes in a row, and that leads me to like his 36% shooting, which is 2% above his career, and I think that's significantly better than last year. Yeah, last year he shot 32%, and the year before 30%. So he's back to his rookie shooting mode, and we all know, a lot of people would say Kuzma peaked in his rookie year, but that's a lie.
Thanks.
He's obviously gotten better.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how normal players progress, and he's what you want in a championship role player. He's not gonna, like last year, that he he was that at times, but not consistently enough to where you were comfortable putting him in more lineups than he is in this year. And he's going to show up in the playoffs. He's going to be the X factor. Like I said, he is the X factor of the team. If he's good, then you have just a certain comfortability in winning a game. Because with him being an X factor, I think that's also added with AD and LeBron being 100% not healthy. Because they're not 100%, like, even worse than last year. So he's going to be the player that fills those voids that they can't physically do. And I think, I mean, he's only 25. That's a little older for a fourth-year player, relatively. But he's just been underrated. Obviously, there it is again. The media will do what it is, and the memes are funny at times. Yeah, but like the hot shower meme is a classic. It's always gonna live in my head rent free, and it's hilarious. And there was also blonde Kuzma at times, but outside of that, he is a meme, but he's also a super good player, and I think it's great. And as long as Lakers fans know that he's great, who cares about what like a Wizards fan has to say? I'm sorry to any Wizards fans I called out, but who cares about like what they have to say about Kuzma? Because he's paid for what he's worth, and what he's worth is a really good championship role player.
Yeah, I'm gonna take that on a quick, hopefully a quick tangent, because this has been a problem for me for a while with like, role players or young players on the Lakers getting trashed by fans of other teams, but like let those players go be in a different organization and they start to show those same skill sets, and it's like, oh man, this guy is really good. Like the Lakers have scouted and drafted really well, like Julius Randle, Jordan Clarkson, Lonzo, Ingram, like all these dudes that were getting trashed when they were with the Lakers, like, oh, these guys aren't good. Like, I can't believe you were trying to put a package for Anthony Davis together with these dudes. And now all of a sudden it's like B.I.'s an all-star, and like, all of our young guys look amazing now. So, I say we hold on to all the young talent we have now. This front office has shown that they can scout really well, and it doesn't matter what fans of other teams say, because I guarantee you, if Kyle Kuzma was traded to their team and they saw like you said, the rebound effort that he puts in, like he will crash from the corners and really like put in the effort. Like he can be streaky as a scorer, but at least now he's developed to the point where it's like when that shot's not falling, he's still doing other things. So, I think he's the kind of guy that you'd appreciate having on your team, but he's obviously a meme, and it's kind of easy to, make jokes and laugh at his expense.
That's completely true. I will say, just before we get to my third player, which is super tough, I will say picking three, because everyone's kind of in the same mold outside of LeBron and AD. They're supportive players that are really good at their roles, but starting from 2014 when Julius Randle was picked, I mean, and obviously limiting it to when AD and the whole farm was sold for him, which thankfully that happened. Yeah. And David Griffin blessed us, and he's missed the playoffs twice in a row. Shout out to him. I mean, they've probably been the best drafting in, I wouldn't say best because we don't have any of those players, but Lonzo Ball, Tony Bradley, two solid good players. Brandon Ingram, I can't say his name, Zubac, really good players, and an all-star. D'Angelo Russell, Larry Nance, and Anthony Brown, 2 out of 3 really good players, and Julius Randle. I mean, what more could you ask for?
There's even like fringe guys in there as well, like Svi Mikhailuk from a few years ago, who it still hurts me to this day that we traded him for like half a season of Reggie Bullock, and it was just awful. Just a bad trade. Like, we could use that additional shooter on this team now, and it just kind of bugs me every time I see him in a jersey that's not a Lakers jersey now.
Yeah, and that Zubac trade will always live in infamy. Yep. But yeah, so for my third play, that was quite the Kuzma. We talked about Kuzma for quite a bit.
Deservedly so.
Deservedly so, yeah. My third player, I will say this is off the dome. This is not planned, because, for me at least, because there's just so many. But I guess I'm going to have to go with Man, this is super rough. I guess I'll go with... See, it's a toss-up for me between Montrez and Schroeder for that third place. But I think just because of consistency, I'll go with Montrez... Or I'll go with Schroeder at 3.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, so that I guess I'll say my 2. It's Montrez, so... I'll just say the difference between them, it's not that big. Obviously, there it is. Dennis Schroeder played a bunch of starting minutes. I mean, he was our starting point guard, and he came for that reason. His contract extension is quite looming. I know he's asking for like 20-something, but that's all the way. That's in a few months. That's something to worry about later on. He's been great, but I just think some of his consistencies just put him a little bit below Montrez. Montrez... For what he's really good at, he's really good at. For what he's not really good at, you see it. He sometimes gets DNPs, which is wild that I'm saying over a starter. But it's just what you're good at for me. Mm-hmm. And he did it more consistently. Now that I'm looking at his stats, I don't know, did he get any starts? I don't think he got a few starts, right?
Trez, I don't think so.
He got one. He started one game, which is for what he's. And I think that's just intentionally. I think he just thrives in that role.
Most definitely.
Yeah. From his Clippers days, he did go down mainly because of his minutes played. But he's on pace for what his Clippers stats were. I mean, yeah, he averaged 62% from the field. That's 40. That's some number higher than last year's, and he's just a super efficient player. 62% effective field goal percentage. I don't see. Have you seen it? Did you see any threes from him? I don't think I saw any threes from him.
I don't think we got any Trez threes. None I can remember. But the fact that he's been able to score as efficiently as he has without that, like primarily being a post player and like post up player, like that push shot floater has virtually never missed. Like I don't think I've seen it miss. So, shout out to Trez. Quick question that I probably should have asked sooner. The top 3 players, are we doing this as like the best 3 outside of Anthony Davis and LeBron, or are these just like kind of your favorite guys on the team outside of those guys?
I think that's just objective to you.
Okay, yeah, I'm kind of going with like my favorites here.
Yeah, however you want to interpret it. I see it as how much they helped the Lakers, I guess. Because if we were going off top 3, then I don't know, like talent-wise, Mark would be up there, but
yeah.
I mean, he's really good at what he does, but I don't think he got enough minutes to play. Whether that's outside of his control, but
yeah, Marcus
he didn't have enough.
Like I kind of the minutes shouldn't necessarily be there because I think he is so like matchup dependent. Like not to really like hark on Marc Gasol because I do think some people were like criticizing him a little too harshly to start the year, but like he objectively can't execute the defensive scheme as well as like the centers that we had like playing up on the perimeter. Like he's mainly a drop big. He doesn't do well in space, and it just kind of makes him difficult to play in certain matchups. But for the matchups that he can play, like he's phenomenal. Like he's an offensive spacer for us. He's that during the stretches where we had no Schroeder or like no LeBron, he was literally the best passer on the team, but we had him on the bench. So like he should definitely be getting minutes, but I understand why they're kind of matchup dependent.
Yeah, so who's your number 2?
My number 2, this one's tough. Like honestly, the number 2 and number 1 on this are probably like tied, but if you forced me to pick, I'd probably go with THT at number 2. And that's partially because he is a fellow Chicagoan. So, like, I have just a bias for the guy. We made it at the same city. He actually, played some basketball games at, like, the high school nearby, the neighborhood I grew up in. So, like, I've got people in the city that, like, know him or, like, know his people and whatnot. So, I support THD super hard. Like, I think he is like the young prospect of the team, but the fact that he has like shown such NBA ready skills, like he gets to the paint whenever he wants. Now, when he gets to the rim, like the results can be mixed, but I think he's a pretty good finisher, especially for a 20-year-old. And like the handle's been growing. Like he's pretty much just learning the point guard position, and I think he's doing a solid job of it. For the role that's kind of been like overtasked. Like he's not really meant to be the team's point guard, but we obviously have missed Schroeder for a lot with COVID protocol and whatnot, and LeBron's injury. So we haven't really had ball handlers, and I think it's been fun watching him kind of develop that. And one thing to watch during a season that's kind of been a bit of a disappointment in a lot of ways.
Because whenever he's on the court, you just get excited because it's not that you don't get excited with the other players, but there's potential. Mm-hmm. I mean, like you said, this guy is literally 20 years old. He was he was in his teens when he was holding that trophy. So, and when he got trucked by Anthony Davis, that was hilarious. I'll never forget that. But just for perspective, Killian Hayes, who did have obviously some injuries, he is 19. He averaged, for what it's worth, 6.6 points per game. He's really good on defense. He's known for his defense, but he is 19. THT is 20. He averaged 9. And this isn't just to compare. This is just to put ages kind of similar. He averaged 9 points. Something that we do want to see him improve tremendously is his 3-point percentage.
Yeah.
He's not known for his 3-point percentage. He's more of a slasher. I don't know who you compare him to, but I think he's just an anomaly in himself. His wingspan is it goes to his knees, which is wild.
Yeah, you're right. I honestly don't really have a comp for the guy. He's such a strange player, and just to point to how valuable the developmental minutes have been for him. If you take a look at his splits, his points per game really start to increase as the season goes by. February, there was a down stretch. I think that was around the time we really started to lose our guys, so it kind of makes sense. He got a bigger role. He kind of had to figure things out. But he starts the season in December 7.3 points. January, still 7 points. February, it dips down to 6.6. But then March, he's up at 10. April, he's at 11. And May, he's finishing with 13 points per game. So, that is a great sign for the future.
And the opposite of LeBron, we're going to keep doing this. He's only 20. So, For my number one, it's kind of a shocker. I don't know if you've narrowed it down. I don't think. Can you take a guess of who I'm gonna pick?
Unfortunately, I do have a guess for who this number one is gonna be. As soon as I saw that you put this top 3 players, I kind of felt that we were going to get to a Drummond discussion at some point.
Oh no!
Okay.
No. I'm not. No.
Okay.
That's just an inside joke between me and Dolos because I think he legitimately thinks that I think Drummond is the next coming of Shaq. Most of that is a joke. I actually think Drummond does have good potential, but he is what he is, and we saw that when he got he had an offensive interference. He got posterized 3 times by James Johnson. That's his name, right? He's 40 years old. Not even 2 minutes into the game, he also had a tip ball interference to start off the game, and I just find that funny. But Drummond, it's not Drummond. It's KCP, which is kind of random, kind of not. He had probably his best year, in his career. Points per game, it's not the greatest. It's only 9.7, but his efficiency is out of this world. He shot 41% from 3. And what is he known for as the player on the Lakers? What is he best at?
Yeah, that's our shooter.
Outside of Wes Matthews and Ben McLemore, I mean, those guys are great shooters, but KCP is blowing them out of the water.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is all on 4.3 3-pointers per game. That's almost one more than last year.
And while easily being the best defender as also a 3-point threat as well for us.
Yeah, and what's pretty wild to me is I think him and Andre Drummond are the same age. I always thought KCP was way older than 27.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, that blows my mind. But he started 66 games and he played all of them. He only missed 6 games. I know a few injuries here and there. I don't know if he had a concussion at some point, but he's also a really good hustle player. we've got a lot of those just dogs out there,
Yeah.
and that's a blessing to have. But I just think he's been the most consistent. He's been the best at his role. Is he the best player on the team outside of the two we mentioned? Definitely not. But is he doing what he does? He's doing what he does the best, and that's kind of my made-up criteria. I did forget to mention he shot 6% more on free throws, and his efficiency field goal percentage is almost 5% more. He's been everything you want him, and hopefully that translates into the playoffs. I know it probably will. Hopefully there's no jinxing, but last year he showed out. I'm just glad he's on our team. And I don't know what is his contract? Is he
We just re-signed him in the off season. So I think it was like if we re-signed him in the off season, I imagine like I don't remember off top, but I imagine it was like a 3 or 4 year deal.
It was. He's a free agent in 2 years. I don't know. I don't think he's restricted. He's not. I think he's unrestricted after 3 years. So I'm glad we have them for that long, because any championship team would absolutely kill to have him. And I'm glad that he's not on any of those teams.
Facts. Yeah. KCP, like I'm right there with you on that. Like in that, he might not be the best of like our guys outside of AD and Braun, but he might be the most important because like, I trust him the most out of all of our like 3-point threats that he'll knock down the shot. And, then he's also a quality defender as well. We rely on him really like a lot on that end of the ball, sometimes a little too much. He's a huge part of our transition game, which like, when our offense was pretty bad, and it's still not great this year, like since we don't have that fantastic of a half-court offense, like the fact our defense got us into transition so much was fantastic. And KCP is just like a blur. As soon as we get the steal or like get a deflection or something, he's right down the other court, like blazing for like a layup, or he's already in the corner ready for somebody to hit him for a 3. So like KCP might be the most important, of the others on the team.
That's true. So who is your number one?
So my number one is actually Alex Caruso.
I like it.
Might be a bit of a hot take here, but I think he should definitely be getting more all defensive consideration than a guy like Marcus Smart. Like Marcus Smart is he's missed a bunch of games, and I think he's obviously the more talented like individual and team defender than Alex Caruso is. But I just think Alex Caruso does so much for us that like in our defensive scheme, like digging and recovering, like rotating over, stunning on a roll, man, like the deflections, the hustle plays, and the fact he's played a lot more games than Marcus Smart, like the fact we've maintained like a top defense in the league with, AD and Braun out for a majority of the season, and we're probably not going to get a guy on all defense. I think that guy should either be like KCP or Alex Caruso, because they have been fantastic for us on that end. He's developed offensively, and it's hard to watch at some points because he's not like a shot creator kind of guy, but he has put the ball on the floor a lot more this season. He's like taking some mid-range jumpers, and he's doing more to get to the rim, and that's kind of like the next step for him anyway. So I'm glad he's kind of already getting to that. He's obviously going to be a hugely important part of whatever we accomplish in the postseason. He's a guy that could probably start for us. Like honestly, he started in the finals and was a huge factor in all of that, because he's not a like high usage guy. Like we can still run our offense through LeBron and AD without like feeling like, oh man, we're just wasting Dennis Schroeder because he's not involved here in this play. Like Alex Caruso will still cut off ball, and he'll still the hustle plays to try and tip it back out or something like that, tip it in and get put back dunks. So Alex Caruso is he's essentially tied with THT for number one, but if you did force me to pick, I do own an Alex Caruso shirt, so he has to be number one.
I don't blame you. No one hates a little Caruso in their life, especially the broadcast crew on Spectrum. They absolutely love him.
Yeah. He's amazing. For some reason, obviously people on other teams dislike him because he gets so much attention. But like, if he was on their team, he'd be getting more attention than the stars on their team. Like he is fun to watch, and he's just like a great guy to have on your team. So like, other people need to just stop hating.
Yeah, and just to look a little more into the future, hopefully, I don't know, he's probably restricted or something like that, or he might be unrestricted, but I'm really hoping that he does come back. But I honestly, like, I wouldn't be mad if he left and got to show his talents.
Yeah, get that bag, Alex Caruso. But like
Yeah,
hopefully
man.
that's with the Lakers. But like, I'm rooting for this guy. I want the best for him.
Yeah. So, like, if he went to, like, not like a bottom-feeding team, but to, like, a mid team, and he got more minutes and more time to show his stuff, then if that's what it takes to get him on all defense, then I'd be happy for the guy. And if he gets a bag, then I'd be even more happy. But obviously, as Lakers fans, we do want him back. Let's not get that
First and
confused.
foremost, make him a Laker forever, lifelong contract, all of that.
Yeah, for sure. And just to make the next two top new categories, I think we'll decrease it to two because we just want to highlight the players. But our next two categories, we'll start with top two games. What are your? There was some. It wasn't like a marquee game that just sticks into your head, but there's just those games that you felt good watching and good coming out of, and that's really good to have in this peculiar season. So, what were your top two?
So the game that we beat the Bucks, I think we were at Milwaukee for that, because that's like one of our like few matchups where we had like a pretty big win against another like contending level team. Like, we had various injuries and things going on, so I think we like took L's to the Clippers and things like that. But like, the fact our fully healthy team beat the Bucks, like, that inspires some confidence. Like, you know, like, teams have to look back at that, like, this is the team that you're going to be going against, not the team that we've seen for the past like month and a half. Like, you have to remember, like, the team that pretty handily beat Milwaukee, like, that's who you're running up against in the playoffs. So that game was like nice to see that from them, since we didn't see it that much in other games.
Yeah, so I'm looking at when it was. It was January 21st. It's crazy to look at, but the Lakers at that time, or a few weeks later, were 21-6. That's kind of wild to see that they were that good at one point. But that was obviously before injuries. For my number two, though, I do have, in the midst of all that chaos, do you remember the three-peat of overtimes?
Ugh, that was so stressful. Unnecessarily stressful.
Yeah, so for my number two, I have the double overtime against the Pistons.
Oh, God.
It turned out the last score was 135-129. Double overtime against the Pistons. And it's not like the Pistons just decided to show out against the Lakers. They showed out against pretty much every contender. Mm-hmm. And they are a good team. Not the most talented, which is what the record reflects, but they are tough. And I do love their future. And so for my number one, I do have... Oh, man, this is pretty rough. I would go biased and say the game I went to, but it wasn't the most entertaining thing. Mm-hmm. It's obviously entertaining to see your team dominate and push Harden basically out of Houston.
Yeah.
But, man. I'd have to say the game against Brooklyn, the second one, mm-hmm. where it was not LeBron, not AD. It was just... I mean, I'm looking at it. Big Penguin, leader in points, leader in rebounds. Hey.
That was a good game from Drummond. I'll give him his credit where it's due.
Hey, man, you said it, not me.
Yeah.
Hey, you said it. Drummond did show out, and I mean, I don't know how much Nicholas Claxton played that game, but there's obviously not much competition mm-hmm. in the big man, so we'll contextualize a little bit. Horton Tucker did have 11 assists. I believe that was a career high. Mm-hmm. And it was just, like, super random just to see them dominate, like, basically the second, or I'd say the best team talent-wise in the NBA. They just, it was on a normal Saturday. You just woke up. You weren't expecting much, because at this point they were 33-20, or 32-20 prior. And then they just dominated. And it felt good just to see the role players in unison. because you have expectations for the starters with LeBron and AD, but when you see them not playing and then the team still dominates, it just brings a different type of joy. It brings unexpected joy, which is, I guess, the best joy.
Yeah. Can I say something real quick about that Pistons game you mentioned? Because I actually that was like one of my low points of the season. I'm like, what are we doing here? I was so frustrated watching that because like I remembering back to last season, and I had this like a lot this season where I'm like, ugh, last season was so much better. It was so much more fun to watch. Like just being in pursuit of the title and all of that. Like the team was hungrier. We didn't have all the injuries. It was just a much more enjoyable season. But we had a game against the Pistons last season where like we were pretty much going to break like a block record. Like they kept like bringing it into the paint. We just kept like Dwight, JaVale, LeBron, AD. Everyone was just sending them. And like now we're facing them this season and they've taken us to like this double overtime. And I'm like, I just want it to end.
Yeah, in that game they got 20 blocks. That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
I think I do remember that. JaVale had like, I don't know, 5 or 6, something like that. Him and Dwight were just showing out.
Yeah, they got to the point where they just started like chasing blocks because they like probably wanted to like break the record and whatnot. Like they were out of place defensively because they were going for the blocks, and they let Detroit get back into the game because we were blowing them out. Detroit gets back into it, and then we kind of have to like close out a bit of a game. But like it was at least a fun watching experience watching the Detroit Pistons get blocked so much. There was nothing enjoyable about watching us like have to go to overtime to beat the Pistons.
It was just one of those emotional roller coasters that you're glad you won it.
Yeah.
And I'm just glad that they were 1-11 away. So if they had won that, they would have been 2-11. That's kind of embarrassing. But what is your number one game?
The number one game for me is probably from like I think it was like a week ago, like our game against the Knicks. I think that game was so fun. Like watching that and it was a close game and like pretty much like a must win, like real important game. We kind of needed the momentum, and like New York's a good team, so like to beat them was pretty fun. They're a good defense. We're not a great offense, and the score kind of reflected that, like being 102 to like 99. But like, yeah, that was still a fun watch. I think, the intensity of it really felt like a playoff game, which like I don't think any of our other games have really felt like. And just in the second half of the schedule, like facing more teams that have crowds actually there kind of gave games a bit more life to them. So I'm definitely going with that next game. I think that was super fun.
Hey man, speaking of that game, 18 rebounds, Big Penguin.
Another Big Penguin game.
Hey, no. Hey, there's a common denominator. You'll see it eventually. You'll see it.
I'll give him his props on defense. I think that's where he's the most usable. But like, I just hate watching offensive possessions that feature Andre Drummond.
Hey man, I would agree, but I got to keep my Drummond propaganda up. So for your 2 moments, I'll let you start off. Name your 2. I got 2 in mind. I definitely got 2 in mind.
Like the number one moment. I'm gonna just do my number one moment because that has to be ring night, and like that's ring night. Like that was about celebrating the title year, and it was kind of like a weird moment with the entire team not like really being there because we did have so much turnover in the off season. I was saving my Lakers championship shirt until ring day. Like that was the first time I wore it. I purposely saved it and waited. Like I wanted to represent that 2020 squad, and it just felt good to celebrate them because I enjoyed that team so much.
Did you get the championship one? Did you get the black one that they wore?
No, I got the white one that has like all of their faces on it as like players, little like characters and like cartoons and whatnot.
Yeah, the caricatures.
Yeah, that one, it's dope.
It is. I was gonna get that one, but I'm not a big fan of white shirts because they're a pain to wash. But I did get the ones they wore, the black ones. Yeah. I got that one. I didn't like completely like them. I like the Western Conference Finals ones. The one with like the shoelaces type of thing.
Oh no, I don't think I saw that.
The Western Conference one, it was gray shirt with the purple. I don't know. I'm super. That's like a niche thing of mine. But my 2 moments were, I guess, number 2 would have to be, just because I saw it live, was the turnaround on the Rockets that LeBron did.
Yeah.
That was on the SportsCenter feed for like 2 days. I got like, I saw that he did it, and he turned around and I was like, did something tap him? And then I saw Schroeder talking to him. I was like, what's going on between them? And it turns out, obviously I can't hear them from like all the way across the arena, but I went and saw it in ESPN, and apparently they did make a bet that he would, like, Schroeder was like 50 something if you don't make it. Yeah. I don't know if that's actually how much he said. So then he turned around, and then now that I got the context at that moment, I was like, okay, that's actually pretty cool. Cause yeah, I mean, yeah, that was just pretty cool. In addition to the blowout.
Yeah, that definitely
my number
fun
one
to watch live.
Yeah, and man, they are pretty tall people, I will say, just to point out the obvious. But my number 1 moment is, it's kind of like a mix of a game, but Horton Tucker, his career, I don't know if it was career high, but he scored 33 against the Clippers, I believe. That was, just because, like, from the start of the season, we were like, we know Horton Tucker, we've said this before, we know his potential. But seeing him absolutely dominate against a contender, as much as we refuse to put the Clippers on that, but they are contenders, him like absolutely going off was just, it was a joy to see. And I feel like a lot of what we liked, obviously maybe it would have been forced because the 2 players were injured, is just the role players, just like, you find a lot of joy in role players doing good.
Yeah, I think that's an important part of like following a team though too. Like, it can't just be about like the big stars, because there are like so many like fun personalities on this team, and it kind of bothers me that like I think this is a genuinely like a really likable team and like a really likable like organization right now, but because they're like a LeBron team and they're the Lakers, like it's easy to hate on them, and like no one's really gonna stop you from doing that. But like Alex Caruso, super lovable. Like they play a lot harder than you think. Like, they hustle, they die for loose balls, like all that generic stuff that people claim to like about basketball teams, but when they play in LA, they just make you jealous.
Yeah, and I mean, with any LeBron team, and in addition to them being with the Lakers, the scrutiny level is definitely up there. I wouldn't say they're the most hated. They make it pretty hard to be hated. Mm-hmm. It's not like anyone's saying anything. I mean, you've got your LeBron and AD comments that get put on a microscope and they get circulated for news and all of that. But I mean, who's gonna hate guys like Caruso outside of just the media? Like, they're good guys. There's no bad person really on this team. Yeah. I think that's just what stands out. But just to transition into the last segment, or the last 2 segments, here we are. We stated before, we're a few hours out from the Nuggets pulling a fast one on us, and like we said, we don't appreciate it, but
call it what it is. They were tanking.
Yes, you said it, not me.
Horrendous.
But I do agree with you. They certainly did not want to see the Lakers, and the Clippers also pulled a fast one. Mm-hmm. Do you think they're like purposely doing? I know the Nuggets is probably most likely purposely. I don't know if the Clippers one was certainly purpose.
So I think for the Clippers one, like that one was strategically, like, I believe they won't see us in the second round either now. Like, we'd have to, like, I think they specifically wanted to be in Utah's bracket and not ours. So, like, that was also tanking. Adam Silver, please fix your league. Stop all this rampant tanking. It's getting hard to handle and hard to watch.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I am one of those Lakers fans that didn't want to see the Clippers at all into the conference finals, because the Battle of LA prior to any of that would just be super lame. Mm-hmm. But also, it's a 7-game series regardless, and if you're doing that in the first round, and you've got the Western Conference threats that are insane, like, this conference is absolutely insane. You're gonna face the Suns or the Jazz in the second round if they do play the Clippers. I just didn't see, like, Dom 2K even said this, like, the percentage just goes super low if you play a team like the Clippers, who you're probably going to win against, but they're going to give you your all. And if you have 2 stars that are injured, you don't want to be in that state. But I'm glad, for the sake of being honest, I am glad they did pull a fast one on us. And hopefully the Battle of LA does happen, because, I mean, that's what the NBA wants to see. But we are in the play-in. We are the 7th seed. And I guess for any of you who haven't seen, I will list out the NBA standings at the moment. If you want, you can call the Eastern Conference right now if you'd like.
Eastern Conference. I'm calling that. Who's coming out of the East will actually.
No,
you know what?
No.
I'm not calling it. Never mind. This is a little too difficult. The East is actually kind of a little tough.
You can, hey man.
I was about to just go off the dome and like make some bold prediction, but like I looked at the standings again and I'm like, actually, let me hold on and kind of just wait till things calm down and at least get the play-in picture.
Yeah, if you want, we can do as we continue with more episodes. We'll do like round by round.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not like try to predict all of it.
Yeah.
So if you want, just to make it a little easier on you, you can try to predict the play-in, which is. Then the Hornets were just like the 7th seed. They went from 7. No, they weren't. That's a lie. They were the 8th seed, I believe.
Yeah, they were like 8th.
And they go all the way to number 10 to face the Celtics, which is I don't know how to feel about the Celtics.
The Hornets are going to be facing the Pacers, and the Wizards are going to be against.
The Celtics. Right. I forgot about that. Like I said, the biggest flaw with the plan. Some people were like absolutely hating on it, and I'm like, how can you hate it if it hasn't happened yet? I think just the biggest flaw is, like, why would you include the 7th seed? Because I like last year's format. I don't think the 7th seed should be included. But the Celtics aren't really... They lost Jaylen Brown. So, I mean, I'll let you handle that play-in tournament.
So, predicting in the East, like, no Jaylen Brown. Like, the Celtics have kind of just been sputtering. The Wizards have actually been stringing together some good performances. They've been a good defense actually since the trade deadline. Their offense has been good. I'm a Russell Westbrook stan, so like putting that out there, I got the Wizards taking that one, and then upsetting the Nets in the first round. So there we go, boom, hot take for the video. For the podcast. My bad, for the podcast.
So you have the Wizards upsetting the Celtics.
Yeah, for the play-in. I definitely have the Wizards.
I don't hate
taking that. Yeah. The 9-10, I think the Hornets will probably take that because the Pacers have also just kind of like really been failing downwards lately. So, the Hornets, they're getting their guys healthy. Miles Bridges just returned for them, and I think if they had him healthy and he didn't miss their last week and a half with COVID protocol, they might still have held on to that 8th spot or like maybe even had a chance to climb higher. So I think they're taking care of the Pacers.
I mean, you say they have been failing. Meanwhile, the Hornets have lost 5 straight. But I do agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
So then that would put the Wizards at the 7th seed and the Hornets at the 8th seed. The Wizards would play the Wizards would play the Nets, which is hopefully what happens because the regular season series was insane.
Yeah.
I remember was it in overtime? Something like that. There was one game where it went to where the score was 140 to 145 or something because that's just offensive spectacular to watch. And then the Hornets would play the 76ers. I mean, jersey-wise, that's pretty cool, but that's about it.
Yeah, I don't think that's as much as of a LaMelo fan as I am. I don't think that's all that much of an entertaining series having Cody Zeller and Bismack Biyombo be your guys covering Embiid.
I was just about to say that Embiid is gonna absolutely feast on those guys. Yeah. But transitioning into the Western Conference, here we are. We don't know how we got here. Well, we do know how we got here, but here we are. We'll stall just a little bit. The Spurs are playing the Grizzlies. I mean, that's kind of a toss up for me. I don't know about you. What do you think?
Honestly, I think the Grizzlies are gonna take that one. Like, I don't think this Spurs team really has all that much motivation to even try and advance in this. Like, I think they should just take the L. I think that gets them like a lottery pick now, since they'd be they're the 10th seed, so they should be getting a lottery pick anyway. And like, I think they need that rather than like some fake playoff push that's not going to do anything for them. So I think the Grizzlies take that game.
Yeah, I mean, if Pop really wanted to, he could easily beat the Grizzlies, but because like we said, he's probably one of the best coaches of all. Well, we haven't said that before, but he is one of the best coaches of all time, and he could certainly put a game plan to just like, I don't know, like box in Ja, force some stuff up. But like, does he really want to do that?
Yeah,
we don't know. He missed his first playoff last year in like 20 years. He was just at the Hall of Fame ceremony. It's not that he doesn't want to win, but it's like, what's the significance really?
Yeah. Honestly, because I think Pop needs to just enjoy a vacation again. You know, he got his first ever vacation missing the playoffs last year, and maybe he wants to take another one. So I think that the Grizzlies should win. Hopefully they win, because I'm not even interested in seeing the Spurs advance, to be honest.
I don't want to see that.
Like,
I don't think the NBA wants to either.
No offense to any Spurs fans out there, but I just don't think this team is interesting, like, in the least.
Cool jerseys and all. It's just, I mean, they know. It's more of a team. It's good for fundamental basketball. Mm-hmm. But like you said with Pop, I think you should definitely take a very long vacation. I'm for the Becky Hammond becoming the coach.
Facts.
Big Becky Hammond fan. She coached against the Lakers too. Mm-hmm. That's because Pop got ejected randomly. That was also a weird ejection. But hopefully one day Becky Hammond. I know one day she will be a coach.
Yeah, she definitely better.
I'm super excited. She better be. She's phenomenal. But next, here we are. We're finally confronting it. The Lakers are gonna have to play the Warriors. Steph did just come off a 45-point game. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. Something
Something like that. He's the scoring leader of the season. Pretty wild, because the way defenses were playing him, like triple teaming, like the whole game plan for the opponent was just stop Curry, and somehow he led the league in scoring. Some would say that he had a better season than 2016. I mean, you could certainly make an argument for that, but here we are facing them in the play-in game. I'm not exactly too scared, but if Curry, ceased to exist, I'd be like, okay, feet up, let's calm down. But Curry does exist, and he is an absolute monster this season. Yeah. However, the season series did go 2-1, and it was like a blowout the last two games, and that was with some key starters out. But the first game was, I don't know if it was fully healthy. Klay Thompson has been out the whole season, and I mean, when he went down, that was rough for the Warriors, because with them imagine this Western Conference with Klay Thompson. That's insane. And I'm not gonna. I guess I will predict. I certainly could be wrong. I just think Steph Curry has to be out of this world to pull one on the Lakers, and I mean, we're both in agreement that he's certainly capable of dropping 60, right? Yeah. He's certainly capable of doing that, but I just don't think the probability is there for him. I think the Lakers will beat them. I think it's going to be a closer one than you anticipate, because the Lakers, for as cool as it is that they have their starters, you still have to go through the basketball process of gaining chemistry, putting the big penguin into the lineup, all of that stuff. Like, jokes aside, this isn't the final form of the team. There's a lot to catch up with, because I mean, they've barely played fully healthy together. I mean, with Drummond, it's only been like 4 to 5 games. And I'm glad that, they're not just starting in the playoffs. It's good to have some 3 games prior to the playoffs to get some of that chemistry flowing. But I think this is just a long-winded answer to say that the Lakers will beat the Warriors. And it, as a prediction, I'm not trying to set in stone anything, but I do think we will come out of the Wednesday game, which is, again, I mean, these times are killer for Lakers games, but so it is, being a Eastern type Coast fan for a Western Coast team, but they do beat them. I don't know. Do you agree, I guess?
Yeah, I'm in total agreement on this one. All due respect to the Warriors, like, I think the Lakers should obviously have a respectable, healthy level of concern about Stephen Curry. But I just think that, like, defensively, we have the best personnel that you can get to kind of, like, handle him. KCP, he does a good job of the lock and trail stuff, following him around screens. He's going to need to be on his A game for Steph because he does that stuff better than anyone else, like running off screens. So like, KCP is going to have to really like keep on him. But like, we've seen him have the ability to do that. Like, as much as I'll get on Andre Drummond, like, he's shown a decent level of being able to play up on a screen and like play in space and hedge and trap and like, like that game recently against the Mavericks, like the first half we were shutting Luka down because we were really effective with the traps, and like we kind of changed our defensive game plan in the second half, and that's where things started, to kind of break loose for us. But I think, our personnel just does such a good job. Like, you put AD on Draymond and you just kind of focus on trapping Steph and getting the ball out of his hands, and then, he's going to probably give it up to Draymond, swing, and they're going to have to rely on Andrew Wiggins and Jordan Poole to beat us. It's a bit concerning that Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins have been on a heater lately, but, as long as they cool off by the play-in game, we shouldn't have any issues. I really like our defensive personnel. Like, this was a team that was good enough to be a top defensive team without Anthony Davis and LeBron. We're now...
I mean, they were, which is kind of wild because, like you said earlier, we're going to have the best, arguably, defense without the two stars. And none of the players are going to be in all defensive, which is pretty wild to me. But I think they're just more of they epitomize, if that's a word, what a team defense is. And yeah, I think that's where Frank Vogel should get a lot of credit.
Yeah. Frank Vogel, like I was just going to go, like, I think he'll do a great job, like, game playing. And yeah, he's Steph, like if he gets our bigs out, like, isolated on the perimeter where they aren't really in position to switch back, like he's gonna attack them, he's gonna kill them, like especially this year where he's kind of had more freedom to just take shots and not do the off-ball stuff as often. Like, he's kind of needed to be a bit more on ball, like, I'm gonna get my shot, like just like forcing shots up, and that could be really dangerous for us. I'm still comfortable with the personnel that we have to beat them, so I'd say that it probably will be a bit of a close game because we are really bad at holding on to leads. But I predict that we're gonna get like a pretty big lead at some point in the game, and maybe we blow it or something. But I think we still win comfortably.
Yeah, and like we said, we're definitely in agreement that Steph Curry is not gonna go without a fight. Mm-hmm. The numbers are gonna be there, but he's literally won 6-3. Like Kendrick would say, light screen, green-eyed man. Yeah. There's only so much he can do, and I mean, if the role players show out, yeah, they're gonna beat us because they have to beat us. That's what you want the role players. Like, if Andrew Wiggins scores 40, I think we can live losing to them because that's just how it went. Mm-hmm. But we just don't think that Poole, Wiggins, as good as they are at their role, there's just a low chance, and you're willing to take that chance rather than Curry, like we said, shooting lights out and getting 60. And I definitely like your points about how there's not many better teams. Maybe there's not a better team that can just fundamentally, team-wise, because you can't really lock up Curry at all individually. It takes a team effort, and it's a really good communication. That's what the Lakers have. It's really good switching. It's a lot of off the ball movement. I think Curry is the best off the ball player to ever exist.
Absolutely.
I don't think that's a bold statement
at all. Yeah, that's facts.
Yeah, his like a lot of people say, his gravity is insane, and it takes a lot of fundamentally sharp players like the Lakers do have. You have AD, arguably top 3 defensive player when healthy, but that's a rare case nowadays. LeBron, intellectually smartest player in the league, up there with CP3. You also have Drummond, who can be good at defense, and I'm sure the pressure is there for him to be good. You have KCP. Although, like, what matters a lot is having good wing guys, and what you want your wing guys is not exactly speed, but just the ability to somewhat keep up and put a hand up in the air, because Curry is human. If you put a hand up in the air, he's not human in the fact that he's probably has a higher chance than anyone to hit it, but you want the hand to be up in the air when that matters. And so I think that about does it for today's podcast. It was quite the first episode. Just for plugs, we do plan on uploading this on the Strive for Legacy podcast YouTube channel. This is going to be on all audio platforms. If you want to check out Dolos on Twitter, it is LayupLine.
The Twitter is @LineLayup, because I think LayupLine was actually taken. So whoever has that, get at me so we can like switch @s.
So it's line layup, no numbers?
Yeah, no numbers, just @LineLayup.
Okay, so do check him out there. When's the next video coming out?
The next video is coming out Monday, so I'm not sure when we're actually going to drop this pod, but the next video is going to be out on May 17th, like around afternoonish, and then I probably have another video planned for like Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, it should be out. We're definitely going to plan this. You should be hearing this before the play-in, or else the last part of this will kind of be irrelevant, but it should be before then. If you did enjoy, make sure to look down wherever you are. Pick up your phone, look at the computer, and navigate to those 5 stars. Certainly do click those. And, I forgot to plug myself. Right, my YouTube, we'll talk about that later, but my Twitter is
Rest in peace.
Roze on YT. So, like, YT meaning YouTube. That is my Twitter. I do plan to be more active, especially as school wraps up, but I wouldn't say I'm as good as a Twitter follow as Dolos, so you would definitely want to follow him first. Yeah. I do have my few memes here and there. I just tweeted out, man. You remember the scene for, I don't know if you watched. Have you watched Dark Knight?
Yeah, I've seen Dark Knight.
Where he says, I probably should know the character's name, or Half-Face, whatever it is. I feel embarrassed. But he said, you live long enough, or you either die a hero or live long enough to become a villain. I tweeted that at the Nuggets because I like them and they let me down. But we stated enough our disgrace in the Nuggets. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that about does it. Thank you for listening. And we shall be back, hopefully, if the Lakers don't lose 2 in a row.
Facts.
That would be super anticlimactic.
Facts.
But we certainly hope that doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. And regardless of whatever happens, we will be back somehow, some way.
Most definitely.
Yep. Thank you.
Peace.